let me tell you about a game called Pathologic. Released in 2005 from creators Ice Pick Lounge, this was a game that had you survive in a small village as a deadly plague breaks out. You had 12 days to find a cure while ensuring your own survival. But it wasn't easy. In fact, saying it was hard was an understatement. On top of saving the villagers, you had to juggle your own thirst, hunger, exhaustion, and immunity, all the while the clock was always ticking. Many quest lines could only be completed in one day, and if you couldn't find the time, you'd be locked out entirely. This could have ramifications ranging from missing out on rewards, to having someone contract the plague, or even die. With an incredibly deep and living world, a deep and complex eldritch story, and extremely intense gameplay, this made for one excellent sleeper title. Now, let me tell you about a game called Pathologic 2. Released in 2019 from creators Ice Pick Lounge, this was a game that had you survive in Smallville. One moment. Nope, that's about right. So here's the thing. Pathologic 2 isn't a sequel to the original, but rather, as the devs put it, it's a reimagining. Basically, this just means it's a remake with some extra features slapped on. I mean, I enjoyed the original, so this should be just as good, right? Right? Well, let's jump right in. So in this game, you play as 3 separate characters: a Bachelor of Medicine, a Haruspex, aka Surgeon, and a Changeling, all of whom have their own unique storylines and will frequently bump into each other. This version will be released in 3 chapters, with the first following the Haruspex. Artemid Burak was sent a letter to come see his father in this village as he had fallen ill. Bad things tend to happen in threes, as his father died before he arrived, he was jumped by thugs and forced to defend himself, making him look like a murderer, and as if things couldn't get any worse, a plague breaks out the next day. But worry not, if Artemid can work his knowledge of traditional medicine along with his surgical expertise, then he may just be able to create a cure. All you have to do is survive thugs, dehydration, hunger, and your inventory. Oh, but it gets better. Each day there is a random chance of which section of the village becomes infected. If an important NPC is stationed there, they become in danger of being infected. If you can get them medicine, then you may potentially avoid this, but even that isn't a guarantee. If they are infected, then they have a chance of dying the next day, effectively locking you out of their quest lines. Oh, and if that doesn't sound hard enough, you'll need to either purchase or scavenge food, water, protective clothing, and weapons to ensure your survival. The worse the plague gets, the harder it becomes to get your hand on these essentials, as a loaf of bread in an infected district can cost a fortune. So if you become desperate, then your options boil down to scrounging for scraps in either abandoned districts full of thugs, or infected districts at the risk of your own health. Alternatively, you can just rob people's homes outright at the cost of your own reputation. Your call. Something I feel that this game does spectacularly is it really puts the player under the gun. With the clock always ticking, you're more than likely going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to achieve as many goals as possible in a given day. Alternatively, you may need to ignore some quests to ensure your own survival. You can't save everyone. Now, if you're like me, you may be thinking, oh, well, if all else fails, I can always just save scum, right? Nope. 2 problems. 1. The save points are only at specific locations, so if you do wish to have safety saves, you may be risking death on the way. 2. This game remembers your deaths. Every time you die, you suffer a new penalty, ranging from dropping your max health to becoming more hungry or tired faster. So, an already very difficult game can potentially become even more difficult if you perform poorly. Good luck. While this game isn't all that different from the original, overall I did have a lot of fun playing one of the most unforgiving survival games I've ever experienced. However, there is one problem. While this game does a lot of things right, it seems to have the fundamentals wrong. I had first heard of Pathologic when I saw the Kickstarter for this game 5 years ago. Once I played the original, I was super excited to see what they would do with the remake. But unfortunately, it's still very rough around the edges. The graphics really aren't anything spectacular, and there was quite a bit of pop-up in the environments. On top of this, the combat system is super clunky. Now, I know you aren't supposed to be an expert fighter, but many of my deaths were due to the sheer fact that the punching mechanics are super awkward and, frankly, outdated. Interestingly, the developers have recently added multiple difficulty sliders in the main menu due to cries of the game being too difficult. Although, they have suggested that players not use them. And, you know what? I agree. Despite the frustrations, deaths, and save scumming, it was sort of refreshing to play a game that pulls absolutely no punches and truly creates a desperate atmosphere of pure survival. So, I'll leave this one up to you. If anything I've said makes you interested in Pathologic 2, then strap in, put on your surgical mask, and get ready to fight the plague. Good luck.